What is cultural identity?
Basically, what were we discussing? How did it start? We had a friend, and he's older, and he was speaking about the fact that his daughter was born here in France, and she's young, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, but she's."
Wait, let me give a little background.
Okay.
Because he's an Angolan man, right? But he married
Arabic, I think.
no, she's from, I think they were in Ghana, right? Or
Oh.
Guyana or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he's Angolan. She's from there, and their daughter was born here, but his daughter lives in their country with her mom, right?
Oh, she doesn't live here?
No, she doesn't live
Oh,
here.
okay.
So she's never actually grown up with
Him.
her father, who
Okay.
is Angolan. So when he said, "Oh, she's Angolan," we had a hard time.
We? Just correction, not we. You.
We,
You did too?
yes,
Yeah.
Oh my
we
God.
were on the same page.
This is
For
gonna be
once.
me against
Nah,
you
look.
too?
It's
Hard.
not. It's nobody against anybody.
Um,
Finding a good consensus. Consensus.
so yeah, that's the backstory, and now define what you think cultural identity is before we explain why we didn't agree with the
No,
girl
I
being
think
Angolan.
it's best if we explain why we didn't agree first.
You think so?
Yeah.
All right.
Because I don't know how to define cultural identity.
All
per
right.
se. Go ahead.
Me?
Yep.
I don't want to. I don't want to be the controversial one.
Be the controversial one.
Okay, so
I
accept that role. I actually was like, I want to be the controversial one.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we know.
Make us
I'm
go
black.
viral.
Yep. Only reason.
Okay.
Why does it have to do
I'm
with
sorry
race?
to all black men. No.
The thing is, the girl, not only has she never been to Angola, but she didn't even grow up with her Angolan father,
Mhm.
So I don't even know if when you ask her, like, what are you? She might say she's Angolan because those are her origins, right? But that's different from being Angolan, like knowing Angolan culture, knowing Angolan music, knowing the history of Angola.
The
No,
language.
the language, yeah, exactly. She won't even know how to speak Portuguese. So yeah, if you ask her where you from, she might say, my father is Angolan,
Yeah.
but she'll probably say I'm from the place where she grew up, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we were trying to tell him. It's not that she's not Angolan, like,
Like with their documents or whatever.
Yeah.
She has Angolan origins, but she is not Angolan, if that makes sense.
I get what you're saying. The first thing that shocked me was you said that she's not Angolan because she doesn't even speak Portuguese. And
I didn't actually, I wasn't like 100% on that,
Yeah.
On the language.
But that-
on the language.
That was the first thing for me that was like, I don't think that's true. I don't think it's because you don't speak a language that you cannot be, like, that you can't feel that you're part of a country
Mhm.
just because you don't feel their language, speak their language. And that's what I
I
told
agree
you
with
after.
that, to be honest.
And the example I gave you for that was I have a cousin that was that was born in Angola, but he moved to the UK when he was like 3 or something. Then he went to Italy, and to this day he's in Italy, and like he's I think 15 now. Yeah, and he doesn't necessarily speak Portuguese. He understands Portuguese, that's true, but he doesn't speak Portuguese. So, like, and when you ask him where he's from, he's always gonna say Angolan, even though he's French. Don't get me wrong. He's gonna say I'm Angolan and French, but I know that he's super proud of being Angolan, and he always goes to Angola when he has the opportunity to. So that was my first thing. It was like language doesn't make you part of a country or not, because I don't think you need the language to understand and to like the culture of the country.
Yeah.
That was my first thing, my first
But
argument.
that's where I disagree with you there, because there's a counterpoint to your argument.
Go ahead.
Because he understands the language.
Yeah.
And being fluent in a language is being able to understand it and speak it. And so because he can understand Portuguese, he can get the cultural references in the Angolan culture. If you don't understand Portuguese or speak it, then there's a definite barrier to the Angolan culture.
True,
So that's why I said
but-
that your example of your cousin isn't.
True.
Yes.
But for example, the case of our friend, I think his daughter is still gonna understand the culture, even if she doesn't speak Portuguese or understand Portuguese. She's still gonna understand the culture because her dad is Angolan, and spending enough time with her dad, she's gonna he's gonna explain to her how things work and what funge is and what kizomba is. And even though she doesn't necessarily understand the lyrics of kizomba, for example, she'll understand what it's saying, what it means. And I think as long as you can transmit that message and that culture, I think she still understands the culture.
But that's what we were saying. Like,
And
she's not growing up with her father, so
It'll
yeah,
be
and
hard for her.
in this moment right now, it is hard for her, and I don't think she's gonna feel Angolan per se. In this moment right now, I think it's hard. But I think the moment her dad spent some time with her, and he explains everything to her, I think you can't say she's not Angolan because she didn't grow up in Angola because she doesn't speak the language. That, you know.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
For me, it's
And
more
I'm saying Angolan, but it's for every culture.
Yeah. For me, it's more about actually having that will to learn and be proud of the place
exactly.
that we're talking about, right? If you like, there's a bunch of people that come from Africa. Like, I know a bunch of free people from Congo, right? They come here, they grew up here their whole lives. They don't even speak any
Yeah.
languages, like they don't speak Lingala or whatever. And why are you laughing?
I don't know, bro. Lingala, I love it.
Okay, dude.
I love them. Don't worry. Dude.
Yeah, they don't speak the language. They don't know the culture. And sometimes they don't even mention it when you ask them where they're from, right? Because they grew up here. They've never been there. And they kind of, their parents don't talk to them about their home country. They don't communicate about their culture. They don't have any of those cultural features. So they won't consider themselves from there.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't either, because like you didn't grow up there. You
You're French.
you don't share any of their traits.
And I think that's exactly like ethnicity. The difference between ethnicity and like you being like your nationality. Because in that case, they're born here. All they know is French.
Mm-hmm.
Even though like their parents are from that place, they don't know anything from it. So they feel French, and that's normal. And I think we talked about this when we talked about the football players in France, and we said that sorry, I forgot what I was saying, but no, we said that most of them are black in the football team, but that they're French, and that's because I think most of them were born here, and most of them grew up here, and that's all they know. And even though some of them go back to their countries and all of that, I'm not talking about them, but I'm saying most of them feel French because they are French. Their ethnicity is different, but French.
One doesn't deny the other. Like they you can be both, but it is true that like especially when people were making those jokes of, oh yeah, it wasn't France that won, it was Africa. No, it was the French team that won. And I remembered how actually that whole debate started. It was because I said a sentence, and I said it in a pretty like Portuguese like accent. My Portuguese accent came out. And Elian was making fun of me for it, and that's how it started. What did I want to say about that? Yeah, and like our thing, you asked me, do you feel Angolan? Like, are you Angolan? I would say yes.
Yeah.
But after, I also need to say directly after, but I'm also Portuguese.
Yep.
And in the train ride back when we were talking about it, you said that like by saying I am Angolan, you didn't feel like that denied any other part of your culture, of your Portuguese culture. But for me, I felt the other way. By saying I am Angolan or by saying I am Portuguese, it felt like I was suppressing the other part, if that makes sense.
The thing is, the way we talked about it at Eli's house, for me, it felt like you were saying you can't be either. Like, because when I asked you, do you feel Angolan or Portuguese? When I asked you, are you Angolan? You said, part of me is.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that answer because I feel like what you were saying is by saying I'm something, I'm denying the other part. And I don't think that's true because something that my mother always told me was, I grew up in Angola, just for context. And I felt Angolan to like 100%. I didn't feel Portuguese at all. And something my mom told me was, I understand you being Angolan because it is where you grew up, it is your nationality, it is everything for you. That's all you know. But you are Portuguese and you can't deny that part of you because it still makes the person you are today.
Yeah.
That culture still influences you and it still makes you, you know? And if you're happy with the person you are and if you are satisfied with yourself, that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't like your answer because in my head what you were saying is I'm either one or the other. I can't be both. And I didn't agree with that. Because I feel like you can be so many things. Like every culture that influences you. And then you said, oh, the American culture influenced me. But I think it's different because it influenced you, but you don't feel American, do you?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was saying. Because after it was about, we started talking about the influence of other things.
Yeah.
And after our friend even brought up the fact that I could be considered French partially because I was born in Paris and I've been in a French system my whole life. I speak their culture. I understand their culture. I understand their history. And yet, since I don't identify with their culture, I like when somebody calls me French.
You're not French.
I'm like, no, definitely not. I just can't relate. But what I wanted to say, like that, but we were saying the same thing, but we just interpreted it in different ways.
Yeah.
Because by me saying part of me is Angolan, it felt like I was respecting all my other cultures, but you felt like it was.
It just adds up for me. It's like it's one big thing.
But yeah, and after what I answered to that was just like sometimes, because of the way we grew up, I felt like I wasn't enough in any of the cultures. I didn't feel like Angolan enough. I didn't feel Portuguese enough. I didn't feel French enough.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, coming from Angola, where majority of people of the population is black, right? And being light skinned, and I'm very light skinned. I'm more towards the light skin. You feel sometimes you feel like you don't belong, or it's that you're a bit different, and that influences you and it impacts you, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, sometimes you're like, am I Angolan? Like, am I part of this? And I am, exactly.
Don't worry about it, right?
Yeah, we need to kind of wrap this up before we get kicked out of the studio.
And while growing up, I just realized that doesn't change anything. I am. It's not because of one little thing. Let's say this is because of the Portuguese side. It's not because of that I'm not.
Because this.
It's not because of that I'm less Angolan, or because of that I'm less Portuguese. It's just.
It's what you are.
It's what I am.
So, culture identity. Basically, you need to speak the language. No. No. But it's just that if you identify with the culture and you really have a deep understanding of it and it shows in your life, I think that's all you need.
I think if you feel like you're from somewhere,
might
as well,
but don't go over.
Don't exaggerate.
You know, like French people that have
like
a bunch
no
of black
culture
friends
appropriation
and say they're black.
I feel like I'm from Congo.
Like chill. You get me?
No, I wanted to say you and I kind of had a similar upbringing. We grew up traveling a lot, right?
Yeah.
And to be honest, I left Angola when I was 3, and I didn't really speak Portuguese between when I was 3 and 11. I knew a few words I could understand, obviously, but because my mom is Angolan, both my parents are Angolan, right? But my mom really has that Angolan culture in her. I was always ingrained with that, and I always considered myself. I was always proud to say that I'm Angolan, no doubt about it.
Even when you didn't speak the language.
Yeah, even when I didn't speak the language properly, because I knew about the culture. I knew about Kuduro. I knew about some Angolan shows. I knew about celebrities. I knew about Angola in general, and I just feel like that's what matters most.
Yeah. Another thing that we kept bringing up was if you dropped somebody in Angola, if the people would accept you, because it's can you properly integrate? And that was the biggest question. And that's why I said language is important, because if you go to Angola and you can't speak Portuguese and you can't speak to the rest of the people there, that's why I said it was a barrier, If that makes sense.
A barrier, but it doesn't make you less of a country, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't fully agree with the language part. I feel like you at least need to understand it. Maybe not speak it properly, but you do need to understand the language at least to have the cultural references.
I get both sides. Obviously, you're not gonna switch your opinion here, but
because for example, I don't know if this is a good, and I need you guys to elaborate on it with me and criticize it, because I'm not sure where I'm going with this. But for example, somebody that speaks Portuguese with a different accent. So let's say a Portuguese or a Brazilian going into Angola, just because there's those different accents, there is gonna be some difference, and I wouldn't consider a Portuguese going to Angola and being able to fit in an Angolan just because they manage to speak the language and to speak to people and get around.
Yeah, but that's different because, I'm saying it's all of this together, because it's they can speak the language, but they won't get the cultural references.
Yeah. Okay.
But if they were to stay there for long enough, it would be easier for them to integrate into Angolan society, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I get what you're saying, but I do think if you understand the language or if you understand the culture, I think you're part of the culture, or you
Yeah.
can be part of the culture. And something I wanted to add to that is how us Angolan, because we talked about fuga do cérebros, which I don't know exactly how it translates.
Brain.
Yeah, we can't translate it literally, bro.
No. There is.
But pretty much what it means is just like people from, I mean, for
People
poorer
from the
countries.
country,
Yeah,
not
people.
necessarily
Yeah,
from,
but people from a country go study abroad and never come back to their country.
so they don't contribute to their country's development.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. And we were thinking about reasons to justify the why. And I think part of it is because a lot of times when people go study abroad and when they come back, people from the society don't accept them back
Mm-hmm.
because you're different now, or because you have a bit of another culture, so you're not exactly like us now. And go ahead.
It's called the brain drain.
Brain drain?
Brain drain.
It doesn't sound
Better
right.
in Portuguese.
Yeah,
yeah.
it is.
But it's that's the name of the phenomenon.
I don't think
Yeah.
those reasons you said are the main reasons for them not being accepted back.
Go ahead.
I feel like Angolans, to be honest, we don't have a proper sense of unity as a country. That's how I feel.
It's hard
Like
to
when-
say yes, but yeah, it's true.
When you look at certain
No
countries,
pay memo.
when you look at certain cultures like Lebanese people or certain cultures just like that, like Jewish people as well, the way they help each other out, they always help each other and prioritize each other and uplift each other, you
Mhm.
know. And I feel like in Angola, like when you study abroad and you go back to Angola, they're gonna say, oh, you like if you're successful, they're gonna kind of blame you. They're gonna say, oh, you're lucky, you had
more
better
opportunity.
opportunities, you had whatever, and it's kind of that sense of jealousy, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's the side of Angola that I don't like.
yeah, exactly. And in other places, they're gonna try to uplift each other. You're gonna say, "Oh, lucky you! You
Yeah.
know, you had good opportunities, and you'll try to help each other out
Yeah.
to maximize each other's potential, right?"
Yeah. It's how can you help me instead of like in Angola. I feel like sometimes people just try to use
They just wanna
each other. You know.
Be
Yeah.
better
Instead
than
of
the next
helping
one.
each
And
other.
that gave the perfect example. He said like the first thing he
I
said.
don't know if it's perfect.
No,
if
no,
you're
no.
thinking about the example I'm thinking
Not
of.
that one. What I was thinking about is just like he said Angolans are happy if their neighbor has less than them, and even though it's a bit extreme,
It's true.
there's
Kind of.
partially it is true because people always want to be better than the other. And when you mention Jews, it is true that this is a bit controversial, but why are Jews so, people have that reputation that Jews are good with money and that they're big. It's because they help each other out.
Yeah.
And like they
Well, there's
keep the
also
money.
historical
No,
factors, but yes.
obviously, but they keep the money within the community. And then I don't know who said that, but it was somebody.
I
while
think
we
it
were
was
talking.
Alvaro.
Yeah,
It was our friend.
and after everybody in that community has had enough money, and they're like, oh, okay,
That's
now
when
we
they're
can
gonna
go
start
get money
expanding
elsewhere.
and
Well,
distributing it.
that actually comes from the Jewish Bible. What's it called?
I forgot.
Sorry for forgetting the name, but basically it
Good.
just says the proverb says that the money needs to go around the community 7 times, and after it can
Mhm.
go outside.
But yeah,
the
Yeah.
community.
and I think that influenced their culture, and it's just like they're very
The Hebrew
united.
Bible.
The Hebrew.
Hebrew.
Yeah, and they're a very united culture, and that's something I think we miss in Angola. We don't have in Angola.
Yeah.
I mean, in some parts we do, but yeah. And what I was gonna say is like, for example, the United States. The reason why they're so big is like, as long as you're great at something, pretty much, they're like, oh, you're American, come here. You know? And everybody identifies with their culture because they're so accepting of other people, even though there's all the problems with, for example, black people and just the minorities.
But those are internal.
Yeah, just the minorities. They usually accept people
As soon
really
as the
fast.
minority becomes
Exactly. They're
reaches
like,
a
oh my
certain
God, he's
level.
American.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while in Angola, it's like, I went to study abroad. Nah, you're Portuguese now. Like, you're not Angola anymore. And I think that's a big part of why we don't grow, maybe, because every person that has that capacity to come back to the country and elevate the country somehow is put to the side just because they made
Yeah.
something or they did something bigger than the others.
I think there's this.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just my last point
Yeah, yeah.
is I think there's like unfortunately a certain arrogance to it. It's like nobody can be better than me, and
Yeah.
there has to be a reason behind it, and the reason is definitely unfair. Like I had a friend that he was working, right, and he's older, and he was criticized because he was like, oh, how did you get to this position? Nah, 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 nah. Like it's because you're light skinned and all of that. And after he was like, how are you judging me for getting into this position that I have a nice house, nice car, but after like you literally, sorry to say it like this, but to be like wrong this way, but it's like you have like 3 wives, you cheat on so many people after you have kids that your family doesn't even know about and stuff like that. Well, I'm just here working hard, and I was able to save up to get a nice house, nice car, and that's it. And after you want to blame me for the opportunities that you didn't have, and it's stuff like that that I think prevents us from going further, unfortunately.
Yeah.
As a society, I think we have a
lot
lot
to
of
work
work
on.
to do.
Yeah.
But we're gonna make it there, we have to eventually. But I feel like that's a huge barrier for our development.
I mean, to any Angolan, to any culture outlet, to any person that's watching this video, just try to create a unite community and help each other out. And I think that goes a long way. Just if you try to help the next person, that goes a long way.
I know we did criticize a lot, but
That's because we love our country and we gotta identify the problems to be able to work
to
on
fix it.
How?
But Angola also has
thing to do.
That is right.
but Angola also has many beautiful things, and we do support each other in other ways.
We do.
So yeah, you want to wrap it up?
Bye.
Beijos, ciao. Love you guys. Love you
Se
guys.
gostaram também gostaram.
Pow!